Hey, Jordan from the Affirmation Project. Today I want to talk about society's script, what I feel that script is, and how it's affected my life in particular, and how kind of breaking out of the script is a hard process, but ultimately something that I think is worth it. So, what is society's script? Basically, you go to school. You get on board with the institution. So the first one in your life is you get to school, you get those good grades, you do your homework, you listen to the teacher, that authority figure at the front of the classroom. You memorize stats, figures, you regurgitate them in tests. The better you're able to do that, the better grades you'll get and the more intelligent you're said to be. Then you either get a trade or you go on to further education. In my case, it was further education. I did college and then I went on to university in England. Got Bachelor of Honours in Business Studies. Um, Society's script places a lot of emphasis on working harder and longer. That's where people see value and worth for themselves coming from. A person's worth is usually judged on how hard they work and how successful they're perceived to be. You do more hours once you're in the workforce. It's the next part of society script. Get your 9 to 5. You get in the workforce after all these years of education, all these ideas in your head of what that's going to look like, what your job's going to look like. In my case, a lot of lies were told throughout the university courses about the kind of jobs you're going to get. Everybody thinks that they'll be working at Google in fancy offices and have a really great lifestyle, etc. The reality is, most of us are going to be working in a cubicle for 9, 10 hours a day, staring at a screen, just wondering what the hell happened. Really, that's my case. So for me as well, in society script, it's all about motivation, getting stuff done. Classic example of this is figures such as, The Rock, Dwayne The Rock Johnson. He's up at 4 a.m., lifting weights, getting things done, working insane hours, sleeping 3 or 4 hours a night. For me, that's what I thought you had to do in order to be happy and be successful. I don't think anyone actually really questions whether that would relate to happiness, that perceived success. I certainly didn't. It never factored into my equation. I just assumed that once you had the success, that kind of your life just falls into place and everything would make sense. So for me, I did all the self-help books. I was very motivated. Moved over to Australia, got a job, worked my way up the ranks very quickly to management level, and was running a successful sales team. A lot of that was, related around inspirational talks, meetings, firing up the sales staff. I lived and breathed it. Doing the 50, 55-hour weeks, taking home that paycheck. I had the trappings of success in my head, getting the promotions, getting to management level, getting more money, living in, Bondi, lovely area of Australia, young, I was fit, physically fit. But then something strange happened after 2 or 3 years of doing that. I started feeling strange. I went to the doctors and they told me there was nothing wrong with me, even though I felt like there was something wrong. No energy, no kind of motivation. Found it hard to get out of bed in the mornings. Very tired all the time. Didn't really feel like socializing. So instantly I thought, maybe some levels are off. Let's go get some blood tests. Let's go check testosterone levels, etc. And then the strangest thing happened. The doctor sat me down, made me do a test, and then told me that I have depression and anxiety, something that I'd never even come across or conceived of in my life before. I've been very lucky. I've been very shielded from that growing up. Never really had any experience of it. So to be told that, I instantly dismissed it. Like, this doctor's crazy. He's just trying to sell me some pills, tried to put me on antidepressants. I was like, I'm not that guy. I don't need antidepressants. I couldn't figure it out. I've got everything I want. I live in a beautiful area of the world, got a great job, physically fit. But why do I feel this way? And I think it's at that point in my life, I'm kind of very lucky to have figured it out. It was playing to society's script. It didn't give me, it didn't fulfill me in any way. It was just, I was miserable. And that was my first experience of rejecting the script, of figuring out that, I've been lied to for all my life. And I'd figured all this out at 25, 26 years old. So as soon as I could, I quit that job straight away and tried to pursue something that I thought would bring me more happiness, which turned out to be a complete 360. I ended up working on restoring cars, which brought me a great deal more happiness. But I think in society, a lot of people, I count myself very fortunate that I figured all this out at such a young age, because the typical midlife crisis, I feel like, um, is what I went through, just figured out in your 40s or 50s. There's the classic example of working in an insurance firm, doing what I did, getting up to the management levels. I was working on behalf of the banks in Australia, which could be another reason of why I felt so empty. I was working within the financial sector, which is, I can go into that in other videos, but that's pure evil as I see it anyway. I was actually selling credit. It couldn't get much worse than that, to, the Australian public, indebting them further. Um, but yeah, there's that classic example of you bust your balls, 60-hour weeks, you work your way up, you get that office overlooking, Sydney Harbour, you top of the pile, and then you just think, what was that all about? I'm 40 or 50 years old, and I thought that doing all of that would bring me the happiness, and it hasn't. And I think that's why a lot of people go through the midlife crisis. They feel like they've wasted, a good proportion of their lives, and it's been a pursuit of materialism and a pursuit of feeding the ego, and that can never bring you happiness. That's always a very empty and hollow pursuit. Read any philosophy, any great spiritual teacher, and they never tell you to go and earn more money and buy more material things. There's a great line from Fight Club where the Brad Pitt character says, "The things that you own end up owning you." And I do genuinely believe that the more material possessions that you own and the more emphasis that you place on, bringing your identity and ego in line with those material possessions, as if that's all that equates to your self-worth, that's very hollow, and that will actually weigh your spirit down. I feel the more materialism, the more you're weighed down and attached to this kind of material and physical plane that, as we discussed in previous videos, doesn't really exist. It's all empty space if you believe in the quantum theory. So we kind of hallucinate reality as it is. So all this materialism, how could it ever complete us and make us happy? It's a joke at the end of the day. And so with society's script, I feel like the youth of today is very misguided. A lot of emphasis on making the machine keep turning, which is all based around debt and consumption. The more things you consume, it never makes you happy. I mean, you can buy a new car and you'll feel good for the first hour when you're driving it. But then it's just like, what's next? What's next? More, until one day you will wake up. And some people never wake up. Some people go their whole lives exploring this and then die very, empty and unfulfilled. The real fulfillment always comes from, community and helping people, which is something I definitely want to work on more, because I'm terrible at that. I'm a massive recluse at the moment, but I feel like that's a stage that you go through. I'm only a few years into this, figuring things out. But like I said, I'm just very happy that I have managed to put a piece of the puzzle together so early on, and that I haven't pursued 20 years of materialism and indebting myself in order to try and feel fulfilled. See what else I've written here in my notes. Yeah, I think that's pretty much covered it. So, yeah, my main message would be, if you are feeling empty and you don't know why, chances are that you're following society's script, which is just one big deception. It's designed to keep you in servitude to the ruling class. And I feel like breaking free from that might give you a great deal more happiness. All I want to do now at the moment, I'm only 28 years old, and I feel like I've got the mindset of somebody who's retired. I just want to work a part time job as least as possible. I want to spend as much time as I can with my loved ones. I want to read more philosophy, educate myself further on the things that really interest me, work a lot more with my hands, build things. So at the moment, I've got this idea of just getting a shipping container and converting that into a house so that I can live debt free in rural New Zealand or something in the heart of nature. So that's something that I'm going to work towards in the next few years, I feel. And maybe my views will change. It's a constant adaptation. We're constantly growing. Um, but I don't feel like there's anything wrong. Whereas the script zombies out there will judge you. They'll think that it's a form of laziness, I feel. But if you're not fulfilled by working harder and longer, then what's the point? Like, I need very little money to get by. I feel like I live an amazing life and I could sustain it on $200 or $300 a week. So why am I out there chasing, 2 or 3 grand a week? It doesn't make sense to me if it's not going to make me happy. And in the grand scale of things, we're a blip in the grand timeline of existence. If the atoms in your body are 5 billion years old, and that's what makes you up, then why are you trying to chase materialism to try and own something for the next 60, 70 years whilst you're around in this physical body when your consciousness could be 5 billion years old? This is a fruit fly's existence that we're having right now. And I can't believe that the whole point of it is so that we can experience owning things and materialism. That just seems like a complete joke to me. I feel like it's a very brief learning experience that we have. And maybe the whole goal is to figure out that the materialism trap is a trap. Maybe that's what makes us go to the next level once our physical body dies. Maybe people who are still attached to earthly possessions, when they die, that's what reincarnates them back here, and it's an everlasting trap. Maybe in order to move on to the next level, you've got to let go of everything, which is what a lot of spirituality teachings would say as well. They'd say in order to move on, you've got to let go of the ego, let go of materialism. On the day that I die, I don't want to have any attachments. I want to go from this earth the way that I came into it, just me, hopefully surrounded by love, which is, I'm very fortunate to have come into the world that way. That's the way I want to leave the world as well, just so I don't have any kind of draws back to this realm. I want to be completely free, have a very light spirit. That's the way that I feel. It's what resonates with me, and that's what I think, how we can move on to the next level. Part of something I want to do a lot more as well is learn more about death and the theories and what happens afterwards, because we got such a brief time here, and maybe the way to figure out how to get out of this realm is to figure out what to do beyond death, as there may be tricks there as well. We're tricked constantly when we're alive here, so why think that the trick ends the moment you die and it's all, sunshine and rainbows when you pass over? Maybe there's more tests waiting for us there so that, we can kind of set ourselves free, as it were. Just some thoughts anyway. Thanks for listening. So, yeah.